Centenary, Garveyism, Centenary, Garveyism, the making of Mosiah. Right. I never knew there was so much color prejudice in Jamaica, my native home, until I started the work of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Yeah. The daily papers wrote me up with big headlines and told of my movement, but nobody wanted to be a Negro. Come on. Garvey is crazy. Yeah. He's lost his head. Is that the use he's going to make of his experience and his intelligence? I had to decide whether to please my friends and be one of the black whites of Jamaica and be reasonably prosperous, or come out openly and defend and help improve and protect the integrity of the black millions and suffer. I decided to do the latter. I started to take an interest in the politics of my country, and then saw the injustices done onto my race because it was black. I went traveling to South and Central America to find out it was so elsewhere, and I found the same situation. I sailed for Europe and again found the same stumbling block. You are black. I read of the conditions in America. I read Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, and then my doom of being a race leader dawned upon me. In London, after I had traveled through almost half of Europe, I asked, where is the black man and woman's government? Where are their queens and kings and kingdoms? Where are their presidents, their countries, their ambassadors, their armies, their navy, their men and women of big affairs? I saw none. Then I said, I will help make them.
Definitions of economics. Now, I'm concerned that we have lost the sense of a holistic definition of economics in terms of how we define it and how we approach it. But I'm offering a basic definition, and it's nothing new. How economics is how a people organize their productive capacity to ensure their own survival and prosperity. Is that a good working definition, brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Good working definition? I want to talk, this is interactive. Is that a good work? Can we work with this one? How people organize their productive capacity to ensure their own economics. What is economics, brothers and sisters? There's all kind of definitions of economics. Now, I'm concerned that we have lost the sense of a holistic definition of economics in terms of how we define it and how we approach it. But I'm offering a basic definition, and it's nothing new. How economics is how a people organize their productive capacity to ensure their own survival and prosperity. Is that a good working definition, brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Good working definition? I want to talk, this is interactive. Is that a good work? Can we work with this one? How people organize their economics. What is economics, brothers and sisters? There's all kind of definitions of economics. Their productive capacity to ensure their own survival and prosperity. Yes?
Yeah.
And we try to illuminate that a little bit further by saying how a people organize their means of production, exchange, and distribution of goods and services to meet their own needs. So when we talk about production and means of production, we're talking about land, we're talking about labor, we're talking about capital, we're talking about enterprise. Land is to do not only with land. Yes?
Yes.
Everybody with me?
Yes.
So we have to own land.
Yes.
Labor has to do with our human capacity. It's not just what we do with our hands. It's not just broke back activity. That's labor. Our intellectual exercising our intellect is also labor.
Yeah, that's right.
Exercising our genius is also labor. Thinking is work. Are you all with me? And that's part of how we define labor. Anything that's part of our human capacity is labor. So it's a question of owning our human capacity, owning our labor. Are you all with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And it's capital. Capital is anything that we use to enhance the productive process. Anything that we use, any tools that we use to enhance the productive process. Factories, machinery, any tools that we use to enhance the productive process constitutes as capital. And you have financial capital as well. Then enterprise are the businesses that we develop, the commercial activities that we engage in order to move goods and services or render goods and services to the consumer, to the potential consumer. Are you all with me, brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Everybody all right?
Yeah.
So let's deal with economic warfare. Economic warfare. Could you read that definition for me, please, brothers and sisters?
Where one entity seeks to resist the attempts of another to dominate, exploit, or destroy their independent productive capacity, i.e., their means of production, exchange, and distribution.
We are advancing this evening in the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement that it is natural for a people to desire to own the means of production and to take control of organizing the means of production in order to produce the goods and services they need for themselves to ensure their own survival and their own prosperity. Where an external force seeks to deny an entity the right to control the means of production, exchange, and distribution, their productive capacity, then war is declared on that entity. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
War is declared on that people. So Africa, war is being waged. Declared, waged, because you can wage war without even declaring. Because yeah, you are absolutely correct, brother. You know, correct, brother. We all learning.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. War has been waged. So Africa is in a state of war. Surprise, surprise, and has been for the last 500 years, in case anyone hasn't noticed. Africa is in a state of war. And one of the mechanisms of warfare that is rampant on the African continent is economic warfare. In fact, it's one of the most insidious warfare is taking place right now on the African continent. And it is a mechanism of warfare that has been waged on Africans worldwide.
That's right.
That's why Africans worldwide do not control our own productive capacities. You may not believe this, you may not realize this, but even your own labor, we don't control it.
So that's it.
You control your labor insofar as your labor is for the enhancement of your humanity, your people, your nation, your government. Are you all with me?
Yes.
If we labor in the interest of another people, worse if we labor in the interest of our oppressors, then we are enslaved. We do not own our labor.
That's right.
If our intellectual capacity is invested in a system that is designed to oppress, exploit, and degrade us, then we don't own that intellectual capacity. Are you all with me?
Yes.
10-9 Mari. Right, we'll move on. So let's come to capitalism. Big word, capitalism. What is capitalism? What about accused propaganda? Imagine that. It's a propaganda capitalist. Anyway, so what is capitalism? Read for me, brothers and sisters. We have to hear the truth, listen.
An economic system and ideology based on private individual ownership of the means of production by a small minority who exploits the labor of the masses for profit. Objective.
Hold on, before you read the objective, just read that definition one more time for me, please. 1, 2, 3.
An economic system and ideology.
No, hold on. One here say capitalism. What the purpose of the word? You don't make your capitalism because it's a capitalism, all right? I know someone will be worried that you like the capitalism and somebody click you on the camera. That's a capitalism, you're a capitalist. All right? So let's go again, brothers and sisters. After 3. 1, 2, 3.
Capitalism, an economic system and ideology based on private individual ownership of the means of production by a small minority who exploits the labor of the masses for profit.
Okay, now you read the objective.
Objective, capital accumulation, or the amassing of wealth in the hands of the few, the capitalist class, to the detriment of the many.
All right. Are we clear about this, brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, it's not even just an economic system, it's a political system.
Yes.
It's not just an economic and political system, it's a social system, brothers and sisters. Are you all with me?
Yes.
And it's an all-encompassing social system. It is the system, the economic, political, and social system that dominates the world that we're in today. I said capitalism is the economic, political, and social system that dominates the world that we're in today. It's an economic, political, and social system that has been imposed on the world by the global white supremacists.
That's right.
It's their system, not ours. All right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And it's ideological. And it is based on private individual ownership of the means of production. The means of production, the means of exchange, and the means of distribution. In a capitalist system, therefore, the capitalist aims to own all the land, to monopolize all of the land. All of the people, the capitalists own the people and the land. Because the capitalists own your labor.
Yes.
All your intellectual and your physical skills and prowess is owned and controlled by the capitalists. The capitalist owns all the machinery, or the overwhelming majority of the machinery of production. The capitalist owns and controls all, or the overwhelming majority of the enterprises. Big corporations. You all with me, brothers and sisters? That's capitalism. And the objective is capital accumulation, or the amassing of wealth in the hands of the few, which is otherwise known, the socialists call them the capitalist class. I can work with that. To the detriment of the many, the masses, the majority of the people. Now the question we have to ask ourselves, and I think it will be a very easy one to answer, is whether Papa Garvey's economic program fit into this definition. The question we have to ask ourselves simply is whether Papa Garvey's economic program was in pursuit of this objective.
Come on.
Very simple. Message done. Finish.
brother. He's a brother.
And Amy said that she was going to be dealing with the books at that period. And so she's the one Kilroy used to come to, and harass her for information and so on. Eventually, they made Garvey go down to the district attorney's office and so on. But he almost went to jail and all that. That's very early. One of the earliest American governmental authorities who tried to destroy Garvey, this was 1919 now. This is 3 years after Garvey arrived in the US. Was J. Edgar Hoover. I mentioned a minute ago the 1960s, where the government was harassing Martin Luther King and the Black Panthers and all of them. And that whole COINTELPRO stood for Counterintelligence Program. And that whole COINTELPRO operation in the 60s was masterminded by the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And who was the head of the FBI? J. Edgar Hoover. And that's the same J. Edgar Hoover. I know folks call him Gay Edgar Hoover nowadays. I think they found some photographs of him in a black dress and high heel shoes. Apparently this really happened. So folks started calling him Gay Edgar Hoover instead of J. Edgar Hoover. Yeah. But nevertheless, that's the same J. or Gay Edgar Hoover who was harassing all those folks in the 1960s. That's the same Hoover who was harassing Garvey in 1919. This is totally mind-boggling. Hoover made an entire career of harassing black leaders, and the first black leader, major black leader that Hoover ever harassed was Marcus Garvey. Yes, in my book, Race First, I have a quotation there from J. Edgar Hoover. This quotation comes from a secret telegram that Hoover wrote in 1919. And it's very fascinating being a historian, because when you are a historian, you get a chance to sit down in the archives and read, correspondence, letters, telegrams, memos that were top secret when they were written. So here am I in 1972, sitting on the United States National Archives, and I'm reading a telegram. This is the actual telegram, the original, not a copy. This is the actual telegram with all notes in the margin and stuff, written by J. Edgar Hoover, 1919. And he's telling some other official that this guy Garvey, is causing a lot of excitement in New York among the quote-unquote Negroes, West Indian and American Negroes. That's how he put it. Garvey is causing all this excitement among the quote-unquote West Indian and American Negroes in New York City by his oratory, by his Black Star Line scheme, and he says he's a great orator. This is very interesting. Hoover actually, he's trying to destroy Garvey already, but he still has to praise Garvey. In the midst of his attempt to destroy Garvey, he still has to praise Garvey. Garvey is a great orator and whatnot. And so that Hoover then, was part of that early campaign against Garvey. And at this time, Amy Asher too would have been one of the directors of the Black Star Line. And it was the Black Star Line especially that attracted Hoover in this time.
its core. We shall be free again as in the days of yore. Our people's revolution is a natural law. We are the one called to be the black star that pits white light into the universe in darkness. There's no force to resist the energy we are sparking. For if knowledge begins with knowledge of self, then our knowing is endless. Endless like is the field of corn. We are the whirlwind and the storm. Brilliant, magnificent. Our words have made the masses to the millions. When we combine corporate institutions, plant seeds in the desert and command them to grow by the power of our will. Dive down, black women, and dig. No need for a drill. We accepted our doom and to the tragedy of white injustice. We chose not to conform. We are the whirlwind and the storm.
The freedom of the pestilence, fulfilling prophecy over 200 years of deep. We are the ancestors and the posterity. Africans fundamentally, wealthy in race, class, nation, and self-reliance. We manifest a black God of absolute defiance. When we get shit, fool, that was weak and born. We are the whirlwind and the storm.
Look to me in your reflection. Know when you look into the skies, when you close your eyes in the depths of your meditation, there you will find the spectacle of Ethiopia. Can we do it? We can do it. We believe we shall do it. Manifest vision with supreme clarity whenever we get to working. My intelligence is universal. My character is sterling. The resurrection of Africa is the oath we are sworn. We are the whirlwind and the storm. So we rise like Ra on the wings of my axe. Sail on and never fall short of this mission. For we are they who found revelation in the prophecy of the Supreme. Discovered our mission in the red, black, and green. And from now till eternity, every time we are reborn, we know that we are the whirlwind and the storm.
Here, so really it gives me great pleasure to bring to the rostrum our keynote presentation is 100 Years of Garveyism and the UNIA, the black print for African liberation, and it gives me great pleasure to bring to the rostrum to Vazwa Shakara Mbandaka from the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, Tenai.
All right, Tenai. I feel to move, so we're going to come from behind the rostrum today. Everybody all right? Yeah, I'll make someone just EQ this mic for me, please. Make it sound like Barry White. Okay. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. All right, my job in the few moments that we have, can everybody see the screen clearly? Do we need the lights up? I'm concerned about the camera as well. So if people can see it, then we don't need to turn it off completely. This should be fine, right? Can everybody see the screen? You sure? If anybody can't see it, put up your hand. Okay, is this cool? Camera people, are we all right? Yeah? All right, cool. Everybody blessed? Okay. Yes, I have a few short moments to really relate to you the magnificence of Marcus Mosiah Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. There is not enough time in the time that I have been allotted to be able to accomplish this task, do it justice. We're going to do the best that we can. Is everybody okay? Are you sure? This is a presentation that we dub Garvey and Garveyism 101. It's a foundational kind of, introductory presentation to give brothers and sisters the basics, regarding the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And as a part of the 100-year centenary celebrations of the UNIA, myself and my brothers and sisters in the army, our Capitalism Revivalist Movement Youth, the army, are basically taking this on the road. So wherever you want it, brothers and sisters, it shall be there for you. Yeah, wherever you want it, in the country, in the world, as long as you're willing to pay airfare and them kind of things there. You know what I mean? All right. So yeah. So if you want it, then let us know. My brother, Reverend Anika, speak to him, or my sister Nehanda, speak to her, and they will, arrange the situation nice and easy, and we will come and we'll deliver this for you, brothers and sisters. Okay, is that all right? All right, let's move on. So yes, we all know why we're here, and really what I want to try and do is give you an idea of the why the UNIA-ACL was such an important, foundational, and robust organization that will trigger worldwide celebrations. It's very important that we understand that there are celebrations taking place today all around the world in the name of 100 years of Garvey and Garveyism, brothers and sisters. Taking place all over the USA, throughout the Caribbean, on Mama Africa, yeah? So we're in a historical and universal synchrony at the moment, brothers and sisters. Don't have time to go into the spiritual significance of that right about now, but let's hold us down. The Africans around the world at this particular moment in time are gathering to honor and celebrate this 100th anniversary of the UNIA-ACL. Yeah? Okay, can we just hail the African world, please? African world, all right. So understanding Garveyism, in the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, we say that Garveyism is the sum total of the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. It is the whole manifestation of the man, the vision, and the plan. Yeah, we heard a lot about the man from Auntie Jackie earlier on, so I'm not going to go over too much of it, brothers and sisters. And those of you who missed it, you should have been on time, but the sight go. All right. But just for those, but to say I'm a merciful black man. There's a few points here, brothers and sisters, that I'm not going to go into, but Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born on the 17th of Mosiah, 1887. Yeah. Now you can read what's up on the screen as I talk, but it's very important for us to understand the context. Yeah. In which Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born. Just the date. We're dealing with 1887. 1887 was 2 years after the Berlin Conference, which was from 1884 to 1885. Yeah, the Berlin Conference was the conference in which European nations consolidated and organized their colonization of the African continent, following almost a century of invasion after the so-called abolition of the so-called slave trade. I said so-called abolition of the so-called slave trade because there was no abolition and there was nothing called the slave trade. Because you cannot trade in human beings, brothers and sisters. Our ancestors are human beings. We're not goods. Makes sense? So the so-called abolition of the so-called slave trade, brothers and sisters, took place. Yeah? And so therefore, and when I say a series of bloody massacre invasions, I'm talking about invasions. Yeah? And not just invasions, but suppression of rebellion, brothers and sisters. Does that make sense? So, for example, the British government, while they were going around the world talking about how they want to abolish slavery, were trying to figure out ways of squashing the revolution that was taking place in Haiti, brothers and sisters, that came to its fruition in 1804 under the leadership of Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Yeah, and as a result of that revolution, Haiti developed the first modern constitution to completely outlaw slavery. You follow me, brothers and sisters? Yeah? Okay. So massacres and invasions are taking place all over the African continent. Africans in America, following the ending, so-called, of slavery in the formal sense in America, were facing Jim Crow and lynching. Yeah? On a mass scale. To a degree that the violence that was perpetrated against African people in America post-slavery, in the post-slavery era, some say was even worse than the violence that we suffered during slavery, brothers and sisters. Much of the time. Does that make sense? In the Caribbean, we're dealing with colonization, similar things. Violence, suppression, degradation of the African in terms of trying to uplift ourselves. Does that make sense? And so there are historians who suggest that at this time, the late 1800s, Africans were in a position whereby we could be either re-enslaved or become on the road to extinction. Might sound far-fetched to some, but there's some people called the Aborigines, brothers and sisters. There's some people called the Maoris, brothers and sisters. There's some people called the Aztecs, brothers and sisters, who came up against the wicked European, yeah, and decided to fight back. And as a result, the wicked European unleashed the full extent of his wickedness against them. Does that make sense? And to this day, yeah, we very rarely see them, brothers and sisters. Does that make, are you following me? They have a reparations movement going on at the moment, though, brothers and sisters. You also need to know that, yeah. But it's not too far-fetched to suggest that Africans could either be re-enslaved or become extinct. And so this was the context in which Papa Garvey was born. It's very important for you to understand that, for you to understand the significance of why the UNIA was such an important organization. Yeah. So you know that he, as was said earlier, he led a lot of strikes. Yeah. The importance of these strikes, brothers and sisters, is that the fact that when Marcus Mosiah Garvey led those strikes, he was in a position of power, in the sense that he was given privilege, and he was even they tried to entice him with promises of even more privilege if he sided with his superiors against the interests of the workers, and he decided to side with the workers against the interests of their imperialists and bosses. You following, brothers and sisters? Okay, so right, we ain't got time to go into all of this, but just know that it's very important stuff. All right, yeah. So the vision of Papa Garvey, yeah, as was read earlier, I started taking interest in the politics of my country, and then I saw that injustices done to my race because it was black. I went traveling to South and Central America to find out if it was so elsewhere, and I found the same situation. I sailed to Europe and found again the same stumbling block. You are black. This is world now looking specifically to study the condition of African people. Young man in his 20s decided he was going to go around the world specifically to study the condition of African people. He said, I read of the conditions in America. I read Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, and then my doom of being a race leader dawned upon me. Important thing that you need to know about Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington developed a school, an institute, educational institute called the Tuskegee Institute. Tuskegee Institute was built by the students who studied in the institute, brothers and sisters. But not only did they build the building that they were educated within, they also made the bricks that built the building. You know, right? Yeah, you hear what I said. Yeah, you hear what I said. Yeah, you hear what I said. I said, not only did they build the building that they were schooled in, they also made the bricks that built the building. Very important for you to understand that, because this is the reason why Papa Garvey was so inspired by the example of Booker T. Washington, brothers and sisters. Are you following me? Are you sure? Garvey lives? Mosiah lives. In London, after I traveled through almost half of Europe, I asked, where is the black man and woman's government? Government. Where are their queens and kings and kingdoms? Where are their presidents, their countries, their ambassadors, their armies, their navies, their men and women of big affairs? I looked around and I saw none. Then I said, I will help to create them. What I want you to pay attention to here, brothers and sisters, is the fact that he's talking about a nation. He's talking about a nation. Where are their governments? Where are their queens and kings and kingdoms, their armies, their navies, their ambassadors, their men and women of big affairs? So from the inception of the UNIA-ACL, brothers and sisters, it was a nation-building agenda. You're not hearing me, I said. It's thinking wide. And that is manifested, brothers and sisters, in the meaning of the name, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. Universal. That means everywhere. That's what that means, you know. It means everywhere. And Papa Garvey was fond of calling it the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League of the world. That means everywhere. You following me? So from the inception of the UNIA, brothers and sisters, we're talking about a vision that was global. It was not regional. It wasn't local. It wasn't just concerned with Africans in Jamaica, Africans in America, Africans in Britain. It was concerned with every African on the planet. And just as a note, we give honor and praise to the name of Amy Ashford Garvey, as we did earlier on, as a founder member of the UNIA-ACL, brothers and sisters. Very, very revolutionary name. Don't sleep on how revolutionary the name was, because we're dealing with an era in which the word Negro was the vogue for referring to African people. Colored hadn't even really kicked in yet. You following me? So when a man says the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League of the world, that identification with Africanness is quite important. But African Communities League of the world, Lord of mercy, very serious things. It is for me to inform you, Papa Garvey explaining the vision and the mission of the UNIA, that the Universal Improvement Association is an organization to unite into one solid body the 400 million Africans of the world, to link up the 50 million Africans in the United States with the 30 million Africans in the West Indies and the 40 million Africans of South and Central America and the 280 million Africans of Africa, also furthering our industrial, commercial, educational, social, and political conditions. Bear in mind that some people question Papa Garvey's mathematics in the sense that 400 million was the estimated number of Africans on the planet at the time. Whether he was wrong or right, brothers and sisters, is not really that important. All you need to know is that when he said 400 million, he meant everybody, the whole away. Yeah? So I'm talking every single African upon every square inch of the planet Earth is who Papa Garvey was talking about. You following me? People call the Garvey movement the Back to Africa movement. That was part of the program. Yes, there was a Back to Africa element of it. But Papa Garvey said they're organizing Africans for the purpose of furthering our industrial, commercial, educational, social, and political conditions. That means wherever we are, not just back to Africa, you know, wherever we're there. Wherever you are as an African, you should be interested in furthering our industrial, commercial, social, and educational and political conditions. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's move forward right about now. The Universal Negro Improvement Association was founded on the 20th of July, 1914, as you should know by now. Grew to a size of over 11 million, and that's a conservative estimate according to Baba Tony Martin. Over 11 million members worldwide, over 1,000 branches in over 40 countries, 2 shipping companies, an army defense and security unit, wholesale, retail, manufacturing businesses, schools, newspapers, international industrial development programs, brothers and sisters. Let's break it down because we're dealing with institution building. Why are we here celebrating the UNIA-ACL right about now? Is it because they campaigned very well? Is it because they marched very well? Is it because they were famous for going on streets and chanting no justice, no peace? No, brothers and sisters. Much more than that was going on in the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. So the program of the UNIA was essentially an institution building program. In order to build a nation, you need institutions. As the great historian John Henrik Clarke says, a people rise and fall within the context of institutions. They fought rise for no other reason. Rise no other way and fall for no other reason. So therefore, the strength of a people is going to be based upon the strength of the institutions that they build. So we have to go beyond campaign politics, yeah, and demonstrations. We have to look at what are the needs of the African. As Elder Cecil was fond of saying, ask the Garveyite question. What are the conditions of the people? What are the needs of the people? And then build institutions to meet those needs, brothers and sisters. So, there's a problem of unemployment in the African community. Therefore, the UNIA creates the Negro Factories Incorporated. The Negro Factories Incorporated a grocery stores and all kinds of different stores, laundry, a printing press, restaurants, hotels, trucking company, and factories that made black doughs. The children of the UNIA were not allowed to play with white doughs. So the UNIA made black doughs for them to play with. It's as simple as that. Tailoring, dressmaking, a millinery, and a printing press. Now, what I want you to pay attention to, brothers and sisters, is that we're dealing with a 360 degrees economic spectrum. Because we're dealing with grocery stores, laundrettes, these kinds of things, hotels, where. That takes care of retail. That means you can go into the shop and you can buy your things from an African. Okay. But the UNIA was also taking care of manufacturing. All right. So how were the things that were being manufactured transported to the retail establishment? With a truck. A UNIA trucking company. Retail, manufacturing, distribution. Today, brothers and sisters, we just about control retailing. We're just about in retailing. We don't control it at all. Right? We're just about in retailing. If you're following me. All right. The UNIA, brothers and sisters, as a result, employed over 1,000 Africans in Harlem alone. In Harlem, one borough within New York City. are women in the UNIA. Most of the more prominent names, these are just a few of them. Henrietta Vinton.
Garveyism. Mama Henrietta Vinton Davis, aka the Honorable Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis. And of many great Garveyite queens, we pay homage to you. When we speak of the women of the UNIA-ACL, we speak of over 60%, almost 2/3 of its membership, which is its living backbone. From its inception in Jamaica in 1914, great women of substance played key roles in molding the UNIA-ACL into the dynamic force that it became. This includes Amy Ashwood, first wife of Papa Garvey, and her mother, Mudriana Ashwood, whose home was the organization's first headquarters, but also alongside Indiana Garvey, Papa Garvey's sister, who was
Mosiah lives! Tendai Mware Regai Mazwi Andina Taura Nefungwa Zamumi Yumangu Zenziko Nemi Mware. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Mwari, O Jah of our creation. Tendai Mware. Royal elders, kings and queens, princes and princesses of great Mama Africa, I bring greetings in the most precious, powerful and bountiful name of our motherland, Alkebu-Lan, in the spirits of our most gracious ancestors, and in a prayer for oneness, hope, and prosperity for all our people on the face of Mother Earth. Tendai Mware. Sisters and brothers, we welcome you to the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement's official opening of the Mosiah month, our opening ceremony, which is also incorporates our Shumira, our monthly traditional worship. And so we welcome all Africans all over the world for this beautiful occasion where we honor the life and the legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. 31 days of observance. Yes, brothers and sisters, Papa Garvey gave us so much that we squeeze it into 31 days. But we have to be studying Papa Garvey's legacy every single day, 365 days of the year, because we will be a better people. We will be a greater people. We will be more unified. Brothers and sisters, we will see African sovereignty. We will see African freedom. So let's hail it for Papa Garvey and the UNIA. We raise up the spirits of this great man. We raise up the spirits of this great movement, because this great man could not have done it by himself. And brothers and sisters, throughout the month of this, throughout this month, we will be looking into the lives of particular individuals that made the UNIA. Over 13 million Africans were members of the UNIA, and this information was given to us by the apostle, the late Baba Tony Martin. Let's hail him, brothers and sisters. And we cannot forget the wives of Papa Garvey, Mama Amy Ashwood Garvey and Mama Amy Jakes Garvey. Yes, brothers and sisters, they have played their part. Tremendous work that both of them have done in encapsulating the spirit of Papa Garvey, encapsulating his words, his deeds, his mission, his vision. They have laid very important foundations for us as women, and we will be honoring them in their own right throughout this month, brothers and sisters. So you need to keep locked in to this month with us as we honor these great individuals. Let's hail our queens. And brothers and sisters, we also honor the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, brother leader Mbandaka, who from the outset, from 62-27, which we call 1987, was one of gave birth to this movement, was one of the original spiritual leaders, and still is. We also had, which is our late brother Kamau Nebrata, Kamau Louise Nebrata, who Norway, who again, brothers and sisters, laid the foundation for the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, an African spiritual movement, living according to the teachings of the most eminent prophet and king, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and our prophet Omowale Malcolm X. We live according to the traditions of Mama Africa, which we call Alkebu-Lan Livity, living according to the divine teachings and traditions of our mother culture. We also, brothers and sisters, embrace all African spiritual traditions. That's what Alkebu-Lan Livity is. It incorporates and embraces all the traditions. And so, brothers and sisters, this month of Shumira, this month of Mosiah, where we open our session, our season with Shumira, we, brothers and sisters, I'm just to say that usually the opening ceremony is a public event with, could be hundreds of people, depending, where we come together, we celebrate. And so because it is online, we have truncated the ceremony to fit the occasion, because I said it's a long ceremony. So it will not necessarily be in the same way, but what we are trying to do is encapsulate the spirit and the essence, so you have a taste of what the opening ceremony would have been like. Hopefully this time next year, when they stop playing their games, we can have a proper ceremony where everyone would be able to attend. Our biggest problem is right now is even trying to procure buildings to use. We usually have it at the Chestnut Center, and we would have went ahead with it, but unfortunately it's not open as yet. So we will make do with what we have, and we give thanks that we are in the home of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement. Our our Ipetiso 282 High Road, Leighton. So, sisters and brothers, we, as I said, we open with the utterances of Garvey lives, Mosiah lives. Those words are very important because what we're saying is Papa Garvey lives, he resides in the hearts and the minds and the spirits of every single one of us, whether we know it or not. Throughout the month, we have Mosiah affirmations, 31 days of affirmations, prophetic utterances of the most eminent prophet and king, Papa Garvey. These have been edited with commentaries by the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, Brother Leader Mbandaka. These books will be available for sale again very shortly. But at the first reading, Glorify Your Nation, affirmation 22. And we read these affirmations daily. There are also memory verse from our children as well. For our children, 31 memory verses, which is at the back of the affirmation. Glorify your nation. The flag of a nation is the emblem that signifies the existence of that nation. Have your flag. It is red, black, and green. Be proud of it, for it is the emblem of your race. When other nations exhibit theirs, exhibit yours. Make songs about your nation and sing them. Write poetry about your nation and recite it. Glorify your nation in music and song. Don't sing the songs of other races. Don't recite the poems of other races. See only yourself in everything. Make your nation the highest expression of human idealism. Then live up to it. Tendai Mware. Such is the wisdom of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Say, hail to the power of the word. Hail to the power of the word. Hail to the power of the word. Tenamware. So, brothers and sisters, if you can please rise for our opening chant, peace and love. Yes, brothers and sisters, even if you're in your home, you can rise with us and sing peace and love. It's a very simple peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. I bring to you peace and love. If your mother never come, peace and love. If your father never come, peace and love. Peace and love, I bring to you peace and love. So, sisters and brothers, join in with us, in your home. Take the opportunity to raise the flag of the red, the black, and the green. We are honoring 100 years of this significant flag, and we will be hearing from the spiritual leader as he breaks down the importance of this flag, its meaning, and how we can use it today in our endeavors in forwarding our people's liberation. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari.
Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. And if your mother never come, peace and love. If your mother never come, peace and love. Oh, peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. And if your brother never go, peace and love. If your brother never go, peace and love. Oh, peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love and love. And if your brother never come, peace and love. If your brother never come, peace and love. Oh, peace and love. I bring to you peace and love. And if your father never come, peace and love. If your sister never come, peace and love. Oh, peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Let me hear you sing this song. Peace and love. Peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. And if your friend them never come, peace and love. If your friend them never come, peace and love. Oh, peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. And if your friend them never come, peace and love. If your friend them never come, peace and love. Oh, peace and love I bring to you. Peace and love. All my love I bring to you. Peace and love. All my love I bring to you. Peace and love. All my love I bring to you. Peace and love. Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! Mosiah lives! Mosiah lives! Tendai Mwari. Yes, sisters and brothers, Garvey, Papa Garvey truly lives. Oh, and if you're in the room with someone, give them a hug, because we're one family, and just say peace and love. So just embrace each other and say peace and love, brothers and sisters. If you're by yourself, don't give yourself a black hug and say peace and love. Especially when these times when they're telling us to social distance and stay away. That's not the African way. Stay away from each other. Brothers and sisters, this is just a pandemic, right? This is just the dress rehearsal for the real deal. So let's not fall into the trap. I'm asking brothers and sisters, read between the lines. Some of them are so obvious. You know, just open up our hearts. Just tap into the spirits of our ancestors, and they will tell us, they will inform us, they will direct us to the information that we need. Just tap in. If we haven't got the information, use what they call logical deduction. It don't make sense. So, brothers and sisters, when you're planning for a new world order, when you're planning, you know, what they call Agenda 21, then they're going to tell you to stay apart, stay away from each other. You know, your brother, your sister is contaminated. Stay away. Brothers and sisters, let's hug each other. Let's love each other. All right. Coronavirus is just another virus, another flu. All right. And take off that their muzzle that they want. You know, in our when we during slavery, brothers and sisters, they muzzled us. Right. They stopped us from speaking. They stopped us from communicating with each other. Take it off. All right, I'm worried. Another subject for another day. All right, brothers and sisters, as always, we open every important ceremony with the pouring of libation. And now, there are not many elders with us. There are not many elders with us at the moment, but I'm sure there are elders in the cyber world. And so I'm going to ask your permission to proceed. Tendai Mwari. Tatenda. Thank you. Okay, Tendai Mwari. All right, brothers and sisters, before we move into our libation, let us go through our life cycle blessings. The life cycle of the African provinces. We have what is called natural imperatives. You know, we conceive, we are born, we go through growth and maturation, puberty, adulthood, eldership. These are natural cycles that we go through. And then, brothers and sisters, we have the cycle that we as Africans, our ancestors, have laid down for us. In honoring and embracing the natural cycle, we have our called our cultural imperatives, that we use these to encapsulate the spirit, the natural order of things. And so when a baby is born, we have a naming ceremony. When a child is going through puberty, into manhood or womanhood, we had what was called a rites of passage. And we know that the rites of passage is a passage of life. Then we have a passage into adulthood, and you will get married. We have marriage ceremonies, the coming together of the African man and woman, the African family. And then we have eldership. We honor our elders, brothers and sisters, because with age come wisdom, come experience. And so we honor our elders. And then we have passing over when we ascend into the ancestral realm. And we know that in our tradition, we are clear that physically we go back to the matter. We go back to earth. But spiritually, brothers and sisters, we are very much there, and we're very much powerful. We're even more powerful. And that's what our ancestors have taught us in terms of the natural cycle of life. And so I'll just move swiftly into, obviously we don't have everybody's, we don't have everyone's comments, submissions for the ceremonies, but we honor the cycle of marriage, the coming together of man and woman. And so if you know of a brother and sister that is coming together in divine conjugal union, or who have recently come together in divine conjugal union, let us hail the institution of marriage, brothers and sisters. We bring those individuals and families to the shrine. We also have conception and birth, brothers and sisters. And I have Empress Anoa from Galaxy Radio's 7th grandchild was born. And on the 30th of July, okay? On the 30th of July. So we also have our grandson, who was born, it'll come to me now, in June. When was my grandson born again? My grandson? No, okay, I got two grandsons. We have grandson, sorry. The 7th of June was Prince Asafa, and we had Prince Asani. And I've totally forgotten. It's terrible. I've totally forgotten the date of his birth, but no doubt the 11th of July. No, that's Asani. That's Asafa. No, he didn't. No, it wasn't. It wasn't the same day. So anyway, we give power to those princes who have come into the ancestral realm. Let's hail them. We also, brothers and sisters, have those who have passed into the ancestral realm. Let me just bring those. Again, if you haven't had the opportunity to bring them to the shrine, then please do, or give their submissions. But Brother Lutunji brings forward his niece, Cody's mother, MOSIAH McLean, who passed on the 7th of July. We also have Sita Kanaya, her uncle, who passed on the 25th of July, 62. And we also have, let me get this one. We also have, okay, that is it. All right, for passing. So let's bring those ancestral spirits, brothers and sisters, to the shrine. Let's hail it. Tendai Mwari. We have Earth Days and birthdays. So we have Sister Kanaya. It brings her sister Deborah to the shrine, who was born on the 29th of Mosiah. Right. Okay, that's the only submission. That's the only submission. Our son, brother Shakara, was born on the 9th of Mosiah as well. And I think that, son Adissa, born on the 2nd of Mosiah, and Princess Fulinu on the 7th of Mosiah. Princess was a big woman now. So let's hail those spirits and bring those families to the shrine. Tendai Mwari. Yes, sisters and brothers, we are now going to embark on a very important ritual called the ritual of libation. This, brothers and sisters, is constantly throughout the length and breadth of Mama Africa. When we were truly ourselves, we would honor our ancestors. We will call their names because this is the divine path which the Creator brought us into being. And so the pouring of libation is as old as Mama Africa itself. And so in the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, we will continue to honor our ancestors in this tradition. The libation will be poured. The ritual of libation will be poured by our senior pioneer, Brother Omowale Kwao, and supported by the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, Brother Leader Mbandaka. Our Marks and sisters and brothers, now, if you can just assume a posture of reverence wherever you are, just assume a posture which will, if you have a shrine, then we ask everyone to focus on the shrine. If you don't, close your eyes and just focus inwards and just meditate. Just take some deep breaths and just relax your body. This is very stressful time for us as a people, brothers and sisters. So much is happening and we're trying to make sense of a lot of it. But, trust in yourself. Trust in the power of yourself to be able to unravel this. There is no force greater than us, brothers and sisters, because we are the first of Mwari, of Jah creation. And in doing so, brothers and sisters, we are able to evoke that spirit. We are able to evoke that spirit, and we are able to tap into what is innately within us. We are part of the universe. We are part of the moon, the stars, the planets, Father Heaven, Mother Earth. We are still part of our ancestors. And so we are tapping, when we're calling on their names, we are tapping into ourselves. We are calling on the greatness of our ancestors. And so, brothers and sisters, we are honoring all these brothers and sisters. As you can see behind me, we have the President Generals of the UNIA. You see Papa Garvey here. All of some of them have served more than once, brothers and sisters, but we're honoring them as well. Those who have passed and those who are still with us. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari.
You might want to take the lights down. You may want to, whatever it's going to do, brothers and sisters, to make sure that you're able to tap in and block out any negativism that is, you might, down pressing you right now, that is causing distractions in your life, in your focus. It's a very powerful period because this is a time when the ancestors, Mwari Muzumakura, God and the creative force of the universe, gave us Papa Garvey. Tenai Mwari. So I'm going to call for Tenai Mwari. Tenai Mwari.
In the house, brothers and sisters. 30 days of observance and celebration of the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! Mosiah lives! Mosiah lives! Mosiah lives! Mosiah lives! Did so much for us, brothers and sisters. Yeah. All we have is our energy and our spirits and our vibe. So let's give today, brothers and sisters. Yeah. Come on, let's give. Give of ourselves. Yeah. For the most selfless individual on the face of the earth. It's so much for us as African people. Tendai Wale! Father Heaven, Mother Earth, our great ancestors. Waya yakashata, kaibe makire. Waya yakashata, kaibe makire. Waya yakashata, kaibe makire. Nangwale, waya yakashata, kaibe makire. Waya yakashata, kaibe makire. Waya yakashata, kaibe makire. By the power of our ritual, by the power of the word, by the sound of the drum, we command that all that is of evil to leave Command this in the name and by the power of all things great and good. Knowing that the power of good is greater than the power of evil. The power of good is greater than the power of evil. But God is not celebrated until the voice of the righteous is heard. Let the voice of the righteous be heard. Let the voice of the righteous be heard. Let the voice of the righteous be heard. Unto the ancestors we come. We call upon our ancestor. Tindai Mwari. Make we chant unto our ancestor. Make we chant unto our ancestor. Ancestors of our land and of our people. Let the faithful grace the shrine, Tendai Mwade. Let the faithful grace the shrine, Tendai Mwade. Let the faithful grace the shrine, Tendai Mwade. Father Heaven, Mother Earth, Mzuma Makuru, our great ancestors. Tendai Mwade. We call upon our ancestors in the tongue of our ancestors. Oh, we call upon our ancestors in the tongue of our ancestors. Alkebu-Lan. 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 Yai Mama, Yai Baba, Yai Tubeo Masimba, Yai Tubeo Chukuborero, Yai Tubeo Kusibo, Yai Tubeo Kushinga, Yai. Great ancestors of Mama Africa. Great ancestors of Mama Africa. Great ancestors of Mama Africa. We call it from the east. Oh, we call it from the west. We call it from the south. Oh, we call it from the north. We call it from around the circumference of the globe. Oh, we call you from the height of Mount Kilimanjaro and on the mountains of Mama Africa. Oh, we call you from the depths of the River Nile and on the waters of Mama Africa. Oh, we call you from the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean Sea, the Sahara Desert. Oh, ancestors. Come and give us your strength. Come and give us your blessing. Come and give us your wisdom. Come and give us your courage. Special libation. But we're going to call on some of the great people who have some of the predecessors of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and some of those who were inspired by the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Tendai Mwade. Before we do, we call upon the spirit of our ancient ones. Whoa, we call upon the spirit of the ancient ones. The pioneers of language and communication, science and technology. Metallurgy, theology, mathematics, astrology. We call upon our great prophets of healing. To Baba Saleh and Baba Laila Africa and beyond. We call upon the warriors of Palmares. We call upon the warriors of Haiti. We call upon the UNIA warriors. Black Power warriors. Black Panther warriors. We call upon the Ashanti warriors. We call upon the Shona warriors. We call upon the Bukongo warriors. We call upon the Ga warriors. The Tigray warriors. We call upon the warriors of Kemet. We call upon the warriors of Sharpeville, Soweto, Black Panther warriors, Black Power warriors. We call upon the civil rights warriors. We call upon the great mothers of our history. We call upon some very, very special mothers now, brothers and sisters. We call upon Mama Henrietta Vinton Davis. We call upon Madam Demina. We call upon Amy Jakes Garvey. Amy Ashford Garvey. We call upon Ida B. Wells. We call upon Madam C.J. Walker. We call upon all those great and wonderful and powerful women. Queen Mother Moore. We call upon Lillian Galloway. And we call upon all those great Mama Indiana. Mama Garvey's big sister. We call that Ida B. Wells. Brothers and sisters, we want to call upon all those great women who have inspired. They were the backbone, brothers and sisters, in the UNIA movement. Businesses, you name it, brothers and sisters. Our newspaper, you named it. The Negro World, you named it, brothers and sisters. They were at the helm. We need to really honor those great African women who are not honored enough. Can we hear them, please? We call upon, of course, we're going to call upon Papa Garvey Sr. and Mama Sarah. So Mama Sarah Garvey and Papa Marcus Garvey Sr. Can we hear them, please? We also want to call upon the uncle who inspired him to read and study. Uncle Al Burrows, can we hear him, please? We want to call upon Dr. Robert Love of the National Club, one of the first political organizations the most eminent prophets and kings, Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey got involved in. Can we hear Dr. Robert Love? Can we hear and honor the man who Papa Garvey picked up his book and read and was so inspired that he had to meet this man, the great Booker T. Washington. Can we hear him, please, brother? Of course, the book was called After Slavery. The great Booker T. Washington, who inspired the building of the Tuskegee Institute. Tendai Mwari. We also want to hear our brother Duke Muhammad Ali of the African Times and Orient Review. There's a journal that was written, a journal that Papa Garvey utilized for his brilliant writing skills. Can we hear Elder Duke Muhammad Ali? Can we hear him, please? I want to hear and honor some of the ones who came to honor and manifest the legacy of the most eminent Christian king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I want to call specifically on the practical Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Can we hear him, please? Without the attention from the Black Star, it wouldn't be shining in the way it is, brothers and sisters. Can we hear the attention of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah? Brothers and sisters, Papa Omawale Malcolm X, of course. Can we hear him, please? And of course, Dr. Martin Luther King. Hello! Brothers and sisters. And of course, brothers and sisters, the apostle, as you know him, the man who brought so much of his great work to us, none other than the great Brother Tony Martin. Can we hear him, please? We know there are many, many others of God's children that we have to honor today, brothers and sisters. So we want to say, because of time, we want to honor them all. The great queens and kings who have graced our presence via the UNI. I want to call one more name. I want to call Carter G. Woodson. Can we hear Carter G. Woodson, please? Instrumental in developing the Negro world youth program. Tendai Mari. Okay, brothers and sisters, we're going to leave it there. Tendai Mari. And we're here on our great ancestors. Tendai Mari.
Brothers and sisters, if we can please rise for the Universal Ethiopian Anthem. This anthem was given to us by the UNIA. Let us sing it loud and proud, brothers and sisters. We give thanks and praises for Rastafari, for keeping the message of Papa Garvey alive. In particular, this anthem. Tonight, Mwari. His brothers and sisters, Papa Garvey truly lived. Do you feel his spirit, sisters and brothers? You feeling his spirit? Give thanks and praises. If you're feeling his spirit, then let us know that you're feeling his spirit. Just shout the words, Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. Because he lives in the hearts and the minds of every one of us, sisters and brothers. So throughout this month, you know, the other people say other people live. But we're saying Papa Garvey lives. All right? I don't want to diss anybody who the one say live. But me know say the spirit of Papa Garvey live. And he will live, brothers and sisters, when we chant his name and our children say, who's Papa Garvey? Then you have an opportunity, what we call a teaching moment. You have an opportunity to tell somebody about Papa Garvey. Wear the red, the black, and the green throughout this month, brothers and sisters. Whether on your head, whether over your shoulder, wear your sash. Papa Garvey says, when he passes, to wrap the mantle of the red, the black, and the green around him. So, brothers and sisters, we wrap the mantle of the red, the black, and the green around him. 100 years of the red, the black, and the green. Brothers and sisters, very powerful images. When we see those colors formatted together, we know what it stands for, and it empowers us. Tendai Mwari. So, sisters and brothers, we're going to just share some words of Papa Garvey, or words of those who have been inspired by Papa Garvey. I'm going to ask Brother Shakara to come forward and read to us the making of Mosiah.
Tonight, more brothers and sisters. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. Tonight, Mwari. Before getting into the reading, I just want to bring the spirit of Auntie Nkechi to the gathering. It's our first Mosiah without her in the physical. Yeah, you know, we just charted the anthem. You know, Auntie Nkechi took the anthem seriously. Yeah, she took the anthem very, very seriously. So yeah, I've just moved to bring her to our mentor right now. And as much as Papa Garvey lives, Auntie Nkechi lives, kings and queens. So we just want, you know, heal her. Tell her one. Right, tell her one. The making of Mosiah. Word sounds of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He says, I never knew there was so much color prejudice in Jamaica, my native home, until I started the work of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. The daily papers wrote me up with big headlines and told of my movement, but nobody wanted to be a Negro. Garvey is crazy. He's lost his head. Is that the use he's going to make of his experience and his intelligence? I had to decide whether to please my friends and be one of the black whites of Jamaica and be reasonably prosperous, or come out and openly defend and help to improve and protect the integrity of the black millions and suffer. I decided to do the latter. I started to take an interest in the politics of my country, and then I saw the injustices done to my race because it was black. I went traveling to South and Central America to find out if it was so elsewhere, and I found the same situation. I sailed to Europe and again found the same stumbling block. You are black. I read of the conditions in America. I read Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, and then my doom of being a race leader dawned upon me. In London, after I had traveled through almost half of Europe, I asked, where is the black man and woman's government? Where are his queens and kings and kingdoms? Where are their presidents, their countries, their ambassadors, their army, their navy, their men and women of big affairs? Their men and women of big affairs. I saw none.
Then I said, I will help to make them. Tendai Mwari. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives.
Tendai Mwari. I'm going to now call forward Brother Chukwanika, who will read How Do You Know a Prophet? Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. Every 1,000 moons is born a prophet. Ancestral wisdom. You know a prophet by their magnificent aura, their magnanimous vision, their fearlessness in adversity, their obsession with righteousness, and their fanatical pursuit of their divine mission. Their mighty impact upon the universe and humanity. For they walk the earth like a god or a goddess, and shake its foundations with their awesome utterances. They come in the name of the Supreme One and evoke extremes of adoration and enmity. For the righteous will trail their path in multitudes to drink from their fountain of wisdom, while the heathens will rage against them. They are called forth invariably out of the pains and suffering of their own people and bring comfort and hope. They often foretell their passing and leave the earth vibrating, trying to readjust. Without a doubt, Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born at the 1,000th moon. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. These are the words of Mama Amy Jakes Garvey. From the More Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, Volume 3. If you have the opportunity to get hold of this book, hold it tight because it's very difficult to get. Garveyism is not only a theoretical philosophy, but a working idealism geared to the crying need of an entire race, many millions of whom were dispersed by slavery to the United States of America, the West Indies, Europe, Canada, and as far as South America. The slave masters and their kind used the most inhuman means to break the spirit of the blacks, thus reducing them to a state of frustration and dejection. Handy tools used to produce wealth for white people. The Africans at home were exploited, oppressed, and brutalized by the colonial powers through their administrators, traders, and mercenary adventures to produce the mineral and agricultural wealth of their continent, which was transported to Europe to build up their nation. In time, chattel slavery was abolished. But these dejected and rejected people of the earth never had a unifying force. In fact, they were propagandized into believing that they had no common cause. The American blacks from their sidewalk jungles called the Africans at home heathen and uncivilized cannibals. And the West Indians were called monkey chasers, living in trees. The Africans called all the Western world blacks ex-slaves, a term of contempt. Each unit was taught to stigmatize the other. The divide and rule method wrought havoc in all their simple, undesigning minds. Then came the awakening by Marcus Garvey. Up, you mighty race! We have to carve out our rightful heritage on this earth as God's children, worthy of our Creator. The philosophies of Europe, England, and white America are the products of many cultures in cultural power. Few of them were activists, much less reformers. Invariably, they preferred to do revolutionary writing. Their philosophies cannot be wholly applicable to Garveyism because he based his findings and movement on the historical and current Black experience all over the globe. Yes. He plumbed the depths of our oppression and degradation and bared them to the world. He gave to his people a new set of values in the world where race is a criterion of human standards and the white race considered themselves superior men. He gave Black people new dimensions, new horizons that transcended national boundaries, languages, and religions. He lifted their spirits to the heights of true manhood and womanhood. This is the only African mysticism that some people wonder about. Garveyism has many facets because African nationalism politically becomes Black nationalism in the West Indies and is a prestige affiliation to the Black minority in America, where it generates Black power, which is a unified action of an oppressed and despised, desperate minority to confront white power in the country of their birth. Garvey sought to revive the spirit of Black people from despair to hope, from lethargy to positive action, from fear to courage, manly confrontation. He gave them goals possible to man and the highest creation of God, because he believed with all his heart in the innate abilities of the Black race. He prepared, he shouted, and the masses followed him, for he had awakened in them the real purpose of life, to live as men or to die like men. Tendai Mwari, such is the wisdom of our great ancestor, Amy Jakes Garvey. Say, hail to the power of the word! Hail to the power of the word! Hail to the power of the word! Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! Tendai Mwari. Yes, brothers and sisters, just in case you've just tuned in to the official opening of the Mosiah season, the opening ceremony, brothers and sisters, hosted by the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement at our Shumira, our monthly African spiritual worship, the first module of every month. We worship in our African traditional way. Brothers and sisters, we honor the life and the legacy of Papa Garvey, 31 days of observance. 31 days, brothers and sisters, where we read from our Mosiah daily affirmations, and for our children. So at juncture, brothers and sisters, I'm going to ask our children to rise. And we will read, well, they will say affirmation 1, their memory verse. I'll get there in a minute. I'll get up their memory verses. Is that definitely at the back? No, it's affirmation 2. Day 1 was never forget your God. And day 2 is one God, one aim, one destiny. I'm going to ask the children to say 3 times. Okay. Right. So, all right. Sorry. I do apologize. Affirmation 2 and then memory verse 2. So, sisters and brothers, if you have affirmation for you to read, I don't know if we're able to bring for our brothers and sisters to read. But as I said, we'll read the affirmation together and then I will read the commentaries by Brother Leader Mbandaka. Tenda Mwade. You can please rise for this. God gave man and woman dominion.
Yeah.
God made no angels to inhabit his earth.
Come on now.
God made man and woman to inhabit his earth and inhabit this earth and gave them power and dominion over this earth.
Word.
Everyone who has a soul and everyone who has a mind is after and in the image of their creator, that's God. Right. And when any man or woman in the image of below such as a King His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey said, Hail to the power of the word. Take some lights, brothers and sisters. Commentaries by Brother Leader Mbandaka. God gave man and woman dominion. Do you walk the earth like a king or a queen? Do you speak with the authority of a premier? Do you observe humanity with parental eyes? We are the first of Mwari's creation, created in Mwari's image and likeness. The mothers and fathers of humanity. The custodians of the conscience of humanity.
Come on now.
Such is the authority bestowed upon us by Mwari. So let us rise in wisdom as the natural rulers we are.
Word.
Let us restore truth, justice, and righteousness upon this earth. Such is the wisdom of the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, Brother Leader Mbandaka. Say, hail to the power of the word.
Hail to the power of the word.
Hail to the power of the word. Hail to the power of the word. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. He lives. Now, our children, I would like to hear you nice, loud, and proud as we utter the memory verse for day 2. One aim, one God, one. Sorry, after 2, 3. After 3, 1, 2, 3.
One job, one
aim, one destiny.
Say it 3 times, please.
One aim, one destiny. One job, one aim, one destiny.
Yeah. yes, brothers and sisters, we have 31 memory verses for our children to recite and every day. And just meditate words. One God, one aim, one destiny. Tendai Mwari. Brothers and sisters, please be seated. We are coming to the close, more or less, brothers and sisters. But before we close, we have to hear a very important message, a message by the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, ambassador to the UNIA, ambassador, UK ambassador to the UNIA-ACL, brothers and sisters, brother leader Mbandaka, who has been chanting the name of Papa Garvey for decades now, built a movement in the name of Papa Garvey, because it's on his philosophy that we are going to free ourselves. One Jah, one aim, one destiny. The philosophy of race first, the philosophy of nationhood. Brothers and sisters, there is no other philosophy that is going to free us right now. There is no other example that has been given to us right now. I mean, some of us sit down there and spend our time trying to dissect Papa Garvey to see if we can find loopholes, so we can find what he did wrong. Why don't we take that time to do the things that he did right? Why don't we take time to build on his legacy? That would be more useful, brothers and sisters, than spending our writing dissertation. Papa Garvey did this, or he could have done that, or he. And what have we done with Papa Garvey's legacy? We can do that when we do at least half of what Papa Garvey do. When we do half of it, maybe we might be in a position to look at what him do wrong, but look at what him did do right. Use that to build what we don't have right now. Brothers and sisters, there's a lot of work to do. And that work isn't sitting down there dissecting and trying to find faults in Papa Garvey and analyze. And like Mama Amy Jakes Garvey said, we just become armchair revolutionaries, sit down there writing one book after the next, and there's no work being done. A whole heap of books are being written, but there's no work being built on the books. We're always going to need writings. We're always going to need to update and analyze what we have. But brothers and sisters, let's do some work. Let's build some institutions in the name of Papa Garvey. Papa Garvey built institutions, brothers and sisters. I'm not going to take away from Brother Leader's message today, brothers and sisters. So I'm going to call him forward. Brothers and sisters, let's rise and hail the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, UK ambassador to the UNIA-ACL, Brother Leader Mbandaka.
Tenai Mwari, Mwar Mokorokoro, Kudzai Muzumokoro, Tenai Mwari, Regai mazwi andino taura nefungwa zemumoyo mangu zinzikwe nemi mwari. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Jah of our creation. Tenai Mwari, Mwari kumborera i Africa. Ngai simuzire zitarayo nzwai mitero yedu isumuriayo itumuriako uyamweya komborere uyamweya muzbene isumuriayo itumuriako. Tenai Mwari, Jah, God bless Africa. Lift up the name of Africa on high. Hear our humble prayers, O Mwari, O Jah. We, the family of Africa. We, this family of Africa. Come, Great Spirit, come. Come and bless us. Come, Great Spirit, come. come and be with us. We, the family of Africa. We, this family of Africa. Tendai Mware. Tendai Mware. Tendai Mware. Garvey lives. Garvey lives. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. Mosiah lives. Mosiah lives. He lives. Tendai Mware. Royal elders, queens and kings, princesses and princes of great Mama Africa, I bring greetings as always in the most precious, powerful and bountiful name of our motherland, Alkebu-Lan, Mama Africa, in the sacred spirits of our most gracious ancestors, and in a prayer for oneness, hope, and prosperity for all African people upon the face of Mother Earth. Rumbidzo kunamwariye Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Rumbidzo kunamwariye Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. To the God of Africa be the glory. The glory in celebrating, as we do this time of the year, the life and the legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. To the God of Africa be the glory. For the 31 days of observance of this life and this legacy. To the God of Africa be the glory. For the life of this magnificent human being, this fantastic, extraordinary man who walked the face of the earth 80 to 100 and somewhat years ago. We hear the Creator and the ancestors, and we say, to the God of Africa be the glory. For the indomitable spirit of this man, to the God of Africa be the glory. For the vision of this righteous prophet, who in us what we did not see in ourselves, who inspired in us that which was dwelling in us, but which we had forgotten, that was deep within us, who plowed our minds and our souls to find the best in us, to bring out the best in us. To the God of Africa be the glory, that we were not forgotten. We were not forgotten at a time when the apostle of Garveyism, the foremost scholar in his lifetime on the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the apostle, Baba Tony Martin, Professor Tony Martin, who said when Papa Garvey started his work, he found us on the verge of going back into slavery or becoming extinct. To the God of Africa be the glory, that we have not become extinct, even though we are still dwelling, languishing in a highly sophisticated, high-tech form of slavery. But the vision of Papa Garvey, the black print of Papa Garvey, once we recover and reinstitute that black print, we will, brothers and sisters, have to our hands the means by which we shall liberate ourselves even from high-tech enslavement. So we give thanks and praises for this blessed and sacred day that formally opens the month of Mosiah. In the year 6260, to the God of Africa be the glory for the year 6260. To the God of Africa be the glory for the month of Mosiah. To the God of Africa be the glory that we have the intelligence, the African intelligence, to know that we can define time and space and circumstances, so that this month is no longer the month of August, but the month of Mosiah. This year is not the year 2020, but the year 6220, because we know that our ancestors were the first to measure time and space and create a calendar to guide us in our daily lives. Is that right, brothers and sisters? Right. 6260. I hope that's what I said. No, I didn't. No, 6220. 6260. Give thanks and praises to the God of Africa be the glory. Today, brothers and sisters, the theme of my message is 100 years of the red, black, and green. The significance of the International Convention. The International Convention of the African people world. 100 years, the red, black, and green. To the God of Africa be the glory for the centenary of the red, the black, and the green. Let us hail the red, black, and green. Let us hail the red, black, and green. Let us hail the red, black, and green. 100 years of the red, black, and green. What is the red, black, and green? The red, black, and green is the flag of the African nation. That's right. The liberated African nation. That's right. Brothers and sisters, this year marks a centenary of the first International Convention of the African people of the world, then called the International Convention of the Negro people of the world. But we have corrected, as we have redefined time, space, circumstance, we determine what we call ourselves, and we have discarded since then the term Negro, and we have adopted the term that that in its name links us to our motherland, our mother continent, right. Mama Africa. 100 years ago, after years of founding or laying the foundation of the UNIA, let us just back up a little bit so we can apply a context to the centenary of the red, the black, and the green. That's right. In 1887, on the 17th day of the 8th month, the month we now call Mosiah, rightly called Mosiah, a spirit came into the world in the person of a baby who was to be named Marcus Mosiah Garvey, by his mother and his father, whom we in the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement always hasten to stress to our people that his mother first and then his father had a premonition of who he was destined to be. Right. The 11th child to break the womb, the 11th child in the family of of Papa Marcus Garvey Sr. and his queen, Mama Sarah Garvey, née Richards. And this child, unlike 9 previous children, she had the 10 children previously. 10 previous pregnancies. And only one lived. Only one survived. But on realizing that she was with child, Mama Sarah knew that this child would come to full term and knew that this child was destined to be a leader of his people. What does that tell us? That in the heart and the mind and the soul of Mama Sarah herself was the will to see her people free. Are you all with me, brothers and sisters? We learned that on the day of his birth, when his father saw him, he was so inspired by the spirit that exuded from this child, a spirit that resembled his own spirit. Indeed, the child looked so much like himself that he saw in the child the fulfillment of his own vision, his own desire, his own will to see his people free. Indeed, one of his brothers was one of the warriors who fought in the Morant Bay Rebellion, an uncle of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, was one of the warriors who waged war against the vicious British colonial empire in 1865. Let's hail him for that. So that the spirit of liberation was already embedded in the minds and the souls of the family of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. As we said back home, he never dropped from sky. He came from a mother, he came from a father. And whatever the mother and father put in Papa Garvey is what made a Marcus Mosiah Garvey a Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We understand that whilst his mother was a woman of soft countenance, warm and tender and loving and caring, stunningly black and beautiful, his father was a more robust character. They said he was a brooding man. He was a man who was angry. He hated the system of colonialism. He hated the colonialists. And that's why he used to say to his son, boy, call no man master. Because it was the European that we were calling master in those days. While he was calling us boy, we were calling him master. That was the defined relationship between us and them. And so Papa Garvey said, boy, call no man master. And when we study the background, we learn that his father was always in some kind of scrape, some kind of fight with the colonial establishment, where it's over kind of conflict. We also know that he was a man with a significantly sized library. Right. He read a lot and encouraged his son to read. He allowed his son to access his library and he encouraged him to read. His son had a godfather, Alfred Burroughs, who was also a man with a huge library who encouraged Papa Garvey to read. It is said that when Papa Garvey was born, the women in particular proclaimed him as an ancient spirit. Again, because of the maturity. There was something about him, something about his countenance, something about his aura, and about his character that commanded that kind of insight and proclamation from the elders around him that this was an extra special child who came here with a divine purpose. And so in all of that, observation and recognition was the guidance and the nurturing. We understood that his friends had to respect him because of the presence that he commanded, the authority he commanded, the respect he commanded. And we even hear that if they didn't respect his presence and his words, they would always respect his right hand. Apparently he had a very solid right hand. Yeah, right hook or whatever it was. Uppercut or whatever it was. In the final analysis. Understand that even as President General, every now and again he employed the right hand. You know, especially where it came to those who he found to be traitors amongst us. You know, he would spank them good and properly with that right hand. So we say, to Jah be the glory for Papa Garvey's right hand. Because had it not been for that right hand, we may not be here today, brothers and sisters. So we give thanks for that right hand. Long live Papa Garvey's right hand. Tendai Mwari. But I hear there was a decent there, but let's focus on the right hand. But not only it was not only his hand that was right, brothers and sisters, was much that was right about Papa Garvey's words and his vision. And so we know that Papa Garvey grew up in an environment where his people were being oppressed, downgraded, downtrodden. And Papa Garvey, through the nurturing of his mother and his father, and who knows, as a descendant of the so-called Maroons, the Caramanti, properly expressed, who knows what messages were planted and nourished in his mind and soul as he was growing up. His father hailed from the so-called Maroons. Yes? And so, brothers and sisters, Papa Garvey grew up having that sense of discontent and that sense of objection to the state African people were reduced to in society. He grew up learning the printing trade from his uncle. Went into the printing trade, became a foreman for the P.A. Benjamin Company. And beloved brothers and sisters, even though he was in a position of privilege, when he observed the condition that his people were working under, inadequate the people were resistant to these conditions and took a stand. And Papa Garvey, the people went on strike, the workers went on strike. The managers called Papa Garvey in and offered him all kinds of goodies to side against the workers and side with the management. And Papa Garvey would not accept it. He sided with the workers. What does that tell us about the man? He was only he was 18 when he joined the company. He was about 20 when he took that stand. He lost his job. But that to Papa Garvey was a great compliment. From there, brothers and sisters, I'm moving swiftly on. He decided to travel to South and Central America. We heard, brothers and sisters, the reading of the making of Mosiah. We heard, brothers and sisters, that he traveled the world to see what the conditions of his people were like. He traveled to South and Central America. He saw the same condition. He organized workers in South and Central America. He moved from South and Central America back to Jamaica with the support and assistance of his older sister, Sister Indiana. Again, clearly she also had a vision for the liberation of her people. Of course, she grew up in the same circumstances. She knew what her brother was preoccupied with, and she supported him. She was by then living in England as a governess for some family in England. She sent for her brother. She sent her brother the means by which he could travel to Britain. And so he was able to not just tour Britain, but to tour Europe and observe again the conditions facing African people in Europe, facing African people on the African continent, because in Europe and in Britain, he met a number of African people from the motherland as sailors and soldiers, governors and governesses, and whatever you call them, working in white people's homes, butlers and that sort of thing, servants and what have you. And he would speak to them and learn about the conditions of on the African continent. All of this was fuel. All of this was fuel for the man who loved his people so much. All of this was fuel for the man in whom was instilled this deep enmity for the oppression and the exploitation of Africa and its people. Whilst in Britain, brothers and sisters, and let me just mention as well, this was stated in the libation. There was a young man, he joined a club called the National Club in Jamaica, led by Dr. Robert Love, a Haitian living in Jamaica. No, not Haitian. He was from the Bahamas. Living in Jamaica. And who formed the National Club, and the National Club was about resisting against colonialism and pursuing a nationalist vision, a vision of nation building, Africans taking control of our own destiny. Sandy Cox was a lawyer. Dr. Robert Love was a medical doctor, amongst other things. Sandy Cox, a lawyer, but both of them were astute political thinkers, political scientists. And Papa Garvey was their protege for many years. He worked under them. He became a secretary in the National Club. But to show the brilliance of this young man, to become a secretary in a National Club with doctors and lawyers. As a youth, think about it, brothers and sisters. As a young teenager, into his early 20s. Think about it. Think about all those years of reading. What did his father give him to read? What did his uncle give him to read? What stories did they tell him that implanted such wisdom in this man that he becomes a foreman at age 18 in a business that would only accommodate light skin at best, or at worst, I should say, at best, white or mixed race in those positions. Are you all with me, brothers and sisters? Yeah. Papa Garvey went to England and he read, as he tells us, he was inspired by the reading of a book.
Come on now, bring the book, bring the word.
Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. And what was the prescription of Booker T. Washington? What inspired him about the work, about the legacy of Booker T. Washington? Well, Booker T. Washington had headed up an industrial institute called the Tuskegee Institute. And the Tuskegee Institute was a technical college that was designed to train young people in industrial skills so that our young people would have the independence to do for self, to build industries that were vital to the independence, to the liberation, to the empowerment of any people, for the economic independence of any people, but a lot of people did not understand Booker T. Washington. And time does not allow in this short message to go into the works of Booker T. Washington. But suffice to say, brothers and sisters, that industrial institute, the vision of that industrial institute was to instill our young people and our community with the skills that would render us economically independent. That we would not have to rely on anyone to acquire the material things that we need in order for us to secure our economic needs. Tendai be it also known, brothers and sisters, that Booker T. Washington behind the scenes, even though his face to the public was apolitical, even though he was saying things to suggest that he was dissuading African people from engaging in political action, he was funding political movements from behind the scenes. He was funding political movements even on the African continent. Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington. He was hiding so-called fugitives, people who were running away from the establishment or from the Ku Klux Klan because they were seen as subversives. Many a times they were hiding in Booker T. Washington's house, not just his institute, but it's in his own house. And when they would come and knock his door and say, well, they're looking for this runaway, Booker T would say, would you expect me to have one of them run away in my house? Oh, please. Don't insult me.
That's the truth, Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
He was
absolutely. This whole thing about Uncle Tom is not as straightforward as we think. Because Booker T was not the only so-called Uncle Tom that was deceiving the slave master. All right? That is true. And not every so-called field Negro was a true warrior. Some of them were sellouts. Yeah? So we need to look at that again. But let me move on quickly, brothers and sisters. I just want to drop that as part of the background to the red, the black, and the green. Papa Garvey was inspired to establish the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Don't stop there. And ACL, and Africa Communities League. Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. 1914. On his way back to Jamaica, the vision of the UNIA-ACL came to him. He went to Jamaica. He said he thought of becoming one of the black whites of Jamaica and being reasonably prosperous, or coming out openly and help to improve the conditions of the black millions and suffer. He said, I decided to do the latter. I decided to suffer rather than opt for privilege. Once again, Papa Garvey decided to suffer for the well-being, for the liberation of his people. He gave up opportunities, brothers and sisters. Privilege. Yes? I suppose the socialists would call it class suicide. He committed class suicide, brothers and sisters, even before the term came into being. This was 1914. Remember, there was no Russian Revolution yet. Note that, brothers and sisters. Russian Revolution was to come 3 years later. Right? 1914. And he went to Jamaica and founded the UNIA-ACL. He founded the UNIA-ACL and he started to raise funds to set up an institute, an industrial institute in Jamaica. To raise Africans in Jamaica to the level of potential economic independence. In 1915, he was planning to travel to the USA to link up with Booker T. Washington. To develop his ideas with Booker T. Washington, and then to come back to Jamaica and launch the institute. But Booker T. Washington, unfortunately, died. That is something that we need to investigate. How did Booker T. Washington die? Because he was attacked and beaten up very badly not long before he died. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people don't know this. But that's what happened to him. But anyway, the following year, Papa Garvey came to in 1916. March 1916, if my memory serves me correct. In fact, the 23rd of March 1916, so-called 1916, if my memory serves me right. By then, Robert Morton had become the head of the institute. We have learned since that he was a traitor. A lot of people don't know this. First time I heard this was from Baba John Henry Clark. First time I heard it was via Baba John Henry Clark. So here you have an African man leading an institute that was preparing an African community of young people for economic independence, meets an early death, and then someone taking over the institute who turned out to be a sellout, who turned out to be a traitor. How many times have we heard that story in our history, brothers and sisters? Tendai Mware? But of course, Papa Garvey wasn't to know this. Or maybe he did. Maybe he found that out. Tendai Mware? Papa Garvey decided, as he was in America and launching his work and making connections, raising funds, traveling throughout the states of America, 38 states he traveled in several months, raising funds. He got to the point where he realized that it was to the advantage of the UNIA and the vision of the UNIA, because of the centrality in terms of communication and in terms of travel, overseas travel, accessibility to different parts of the world. It was better for him to establish or relocate his headquarters in America rather than Jamaica. It would give the organization more latitude strategically for international communication, international connection with other Africans from all other parts of the world. And so we established the UNIA's headquarters in the United States of America, officially in 1918, somewhere between 1917 and 1918. In 1920, moving swiftly on, brothers and sisters. Well, in fact, let me just fill in a little bit before I move to 1920. We know, brothers and sisters, that in 1918, the organization launched its newspaper, the Negro World.
That's right.
The Negro World became an international organ, publishing over 200,000 copies per week. It was a weekly newspaper. Listen, in 1918, between 1918 and 1933, 15 years of publication. At its peak, publishing 200,000 copies per, that's almost 1 million a month, in 3 languages. Because some of the newspaper was in Spanish, some was in French. Parts of it in Spanish, parts of it in French. What an accomplishment. There was no BBC World Service then. Are you all with me, brothers and sisters? It is likely that the Negro world was the first international news organ. I don't know of another in that sense. Are you all with me, brothers and sisters? Then in fact, from as early as 1917, the organization had begun to establish businesses. Businesses like laundrettes, restaurants, millinery services, making hats, because our women wore a lot of hats then. Tailoring businesses. Are you all with me, brothers and sisters? A trucking business. They had a farm. They had farms, I should say. Right? They had land, farms, properties. So it had emerged. It was beginning to emerge as a powerful economic force, coming on into 1920, when the Negro Factories Corporation was established. The Negro Factories Corporation, brothers and sisters. By then, the UNIA in Harlem alone was employing over 1,000 people. Think about that for a moment. Through its businesses, it was employing over 1,000 people in Harlem alone. 1919 was the birth of the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation. Think about that, brothers and sisters. The UNIA also had a military wing, the Universal African Legion, and the Universal African Motor Corps. The Motor Corps was mainly women, although it also had men, but it was mainly women. The Universal African Legion was organization, military organization of men. And then you had the Black Cross nurses as another organ of the UNIA. The Black Cross nurses that dealt with health and social welfare. Think about that, brothers and sisters. Right? You had the juveniles, right? The young juveniles. They also had a flying corps called the Black Eagle Flying Corps. Just think, brothers and sisters. And so that's an air force. That is the making, the early stages of an air force. Think about the vision and the scientific approach to actualizing those visions, brothers and sisters. Right? And all of this culminated in 2020. In 1920, in the first international convention of the Negro people of the world, of the African people of the world, 1920. Between the 1st of Mosiah, the 1st of August, to the 31st of Mosiah, brothers and sisters. The convention met every day for 31 days. But it started out with a parade. Listen to this, brothers and sisters. A massive parade at the, what's the name of the, Madison Square Garden. 25,000 African people packed Madison Square Garden. 25,000 African people packed Madison Square Garden, brothers and sisters. Thousands of people, the overflow was in the thousands onto the streets. They said that over 100,000 people marched under the red, black, and the green. The parade was over 10 miles long. Think about this, brothers and sisters. Think about this. Think about this accomplishment. In 1920, Africans poured into Madison Square Garden from around the world. This is a massive historical event that we don't remember enough. To our crying shame. You wonder why we're still in the state that we are today. All that time and energy that we have put into studying Marx and Marxism and getting ourselves excited about Marx and Mao and Ho and all these other who never did this for us, who was not speaking to us, some of who were present, brothers and sisters, at this historical event and were inspired to do likewise for themselves, for their own. Mao Zedong was there. Ho Chi Minh was there. Mahatma Gandhi was there. All of them went home to liberate their own people based on the inspiration of what they saw unfolding through the vision of Papa Garvey and the UNIA-ACL. They did with the legacy what they did with the legacy is still a matter of recorded history. What they did with the legacy is still reverberating in the world today. It's still serving the interest. Look at China today. How many people would know the legacy that Africa gave China through the work and the vision of the most eminent prophet and king and the UNIA? Are you all with me? And we get excited about Marx, Karl Marx, and Gandhi and all these. Lenin was studying Papa Garvey. And after Lenin, Stalin was studying Papa Garvey. And after Stalin, Trotsky, yeah, before Stalin killed him. Right. Somebody look surprised. Hitler, of course. Listen, the whole world was studying Papa Garvey, especially after the first ship of the Black Star Line. That first ship, after it was commissioned and sailed, and I believe it was 150,000 people came to the pier to observe the sailing of the ship, and everywhere it went around the Caribbean, thousands of people came out. People would not understand, people don't know the legacy that Garvey and Garveyism gave to the Cuban Revolution. Right? 52 branches. Next to the United States of America, Cuba had the most branches of the UNIA-ACL. Papa Garvey revolutionized Cuba. And we all excited about Castro. And we don't understand that Papa Garvey lit the fire. Right? That it was going on before Castro. Castro came and reignite or stoked up the embers of the fire that Papa Garvey had lit so many years ago, which refused to go out. Are you all with me, brothers and sisters? And then he banned over 500, I think it was, black organizations when he came to power. It's about Castro. No, not that I know of. And well, unless they were, anti-Castro revolution. Yeah, he did ban, a couple capitalists. Right? Are you all with me, brothers and sisters? This is a big mistake that we have to correct. Because there is nowhere in our history or in the history of the world can we see anything approaching the potential that the UNI gave us for liberating ourselves, for independence of action. And in that event of 1920 was an awesome, you didn't hear me, brothers and sisters. 25 people packed the Madison Square Garden, 25,000. But over 100,000 marched. The parade, I'm repeating it, brothers and sisters, well, how long? Over 10 miles long. Yes? Well, I hear one Irish woman faint. One white woman faint, and another one said to think the blacks are going to get the liberation before us. The whole world was shaken. That is when they started to move to destroy Papa Garvey and the UNIA. Because they knew, brothers and sisters, that Papa Garvey had brought the black print, the real black print for our liberation. Papa Garvey had touched the hearts and souls of African people worldwide, had woken up African people worldwide. At that convention of the UNIA-ACL is where the Declaration of Rights of the African people of the world was drafted. Declaration of Rights of the African people of the world, which outlined the conditions that we were suffering in the United States of America, in Africa, in the Caribbean, and then laying out the demands that we as Africans were making. Yes? It was at that convention, brothers and sisters. It was at that convention that the anthem we sang today was first sung. The anthem was drafted for the convention. And for the first time, Africans around the world, in a royal Pan-African voice, chanted, "Advance, advance to victory. Let Africa be free. Advance to meet the foe with the might of the red, black, and green. Ethiopia, the land of our father, the land where the gods love to be." Think of them words, brothers and sisters. As storm clouds at night suddenly gather, our armies come rushing to thee. We must in the fight be victorious. When swords are stretched outwards to gleam from us, will the victory be glorious. When led by the red, black, and green. Think about the spirit of the day, brothers and sisters. Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! But what have we done with that legacy? That is the question. That is the question. Such a powerful legacy. We've heard how others took the legacy, applied it to themselves. See, Papa Garvey say, "Hear all. Hear all. But attend only to that which concerns you." They came and they heard Papa Garvey and went back to their own countries to attend to their own business. Hear all, but attend only to that which concerns you. Your allegiance shall be to your God, your family, your race, your country. But we started hearing everybody else. Concern ourselves with everybody else but ourselves. We started looking for the solution somewhere else when we had the solution. We had the black print. We had the template. Papa Garvey showed us that it was in our DNA, nowhere else. But we chose to look elsewhere. It was at that conference, brothers and sisters, that the Constitution was drafted. The first draft of the Constitution was at that conference. That conference gave us a constitution for nationhood. It was at that conference, adherent to the Constitution, that Papa Garvey was elected provisional president of the African world, political president of the African continent, which by implication was political president of the African world. This was an African world community that had come together. Okay? We give credit to everybody for everything except Papa Garvey. 1945 Pan-African Congress. Many of our socialist brothers and sisters hail that conference. Many of them either don't know or don't wish to be honest that the people who led the conference were either inspired by Papa Garvey, as in the case of the Osagefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who himself said, I read many books. I read Marx, I read Engels, I read Hegel, I read Mazzini, and he read thousands of books. He's got degrees in education, in social sciences, sociology, philosophy, and master's degree and bachelor of this and bachelor of arts and what have you. Man read thousands of books. He said, of all the books I read, nothing fired my enthusiasm more than when I read philosophy and opinions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Now you tell me one individual who impacted on the African continent after Papa Garvey more than the Osagefo. Look at the work of the Osagefo. Look what the Osagefo did in Ghana. What he was doing for the rest of the African continent. What loomed for white supremacy if he was allowed to continue. He was going to industrialize Ghana as a beacon light for the rest of the African continent, to show the rest of the African continent we can do it. He had Britain in his sights, because Britain is 94,000 square miles. Ghana is 92,000 square miles. That similar geographical size inspired him to choose Britain as a country that he is going to rival. And he pledged to outstrip Britain economically within a decade. That was what his 5-year plan and his 7-year plan was about. He pledged to build a motorway before Britain built their motorway, the M1, and he did it. He built 3 technical colleges.
That motorway that he built has not needed any serious reconstruction.
Exactly. Use cement rather than asphalt, I believe is the reason why. And yeah, absolutely. Crazy, because he had top scientists. He had some serious scientific research going on the ground, which the world didn't know about. I went to Ghana to find that out. Are you all with me, brothers and sisters? That man, Osagefo Kwame Nkrumah, was serious. I don't care how socialist he was. Right? Deep down inside, that man was a guy. He told us of all the books he read. He said, I read Marx. Papa Garvey said, hear all. So he read Marx. Yeah. He read Engels. He read this one, that one. He told us he read them. But he said, of all the books I read, in fact, in his inauguration speech, he stood there and said, today, this, he said, he quoted, today I want to quote Marcus Garvey. And he quoted Marcus Garvey. Right? I'm trying to remember what the quote, the Garvey quote that he... And he said, but today, the vision of Garvey, I was trying to remember the quote. But today, the vision of Garvey, the vision of Dr. Agri, which is one of the inspirations, Casey Airfoot, all these, the vision of these great ones is fulfilled on this day. When the enemy hears that, the enemy knows what that means. Are you all with me, brothers and sisters? Right? I'm here, what he was saying is I'm here to fulfill the vision of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. All right? Tendai. As I said, brothers and sisters, that's when the enemy went after Papa Garvey. Because Papa Garvey could not be bought, could not be sold. There was no price on his head. No bowing, no scratching, no scratching where him don't itch. Right? He was just pure and true. Genuine to the core. Right? Tendai Mari. Papa Garvey, brothers and sisters, says to us in the affirmation that we read today, and I'm going to try and wrap up as quickly as we can. This is 100 years of the red, black, and green. But the question that we must ask is, what have we done with this legacy? What are we doing with this legacy? And if we have not done enough so far, what are we going to do to revive this legacy? We can't just say 100 years of the red, the black, and the green and excite up ourselves and leave it there. Right? We have to do honor to the red, the black, and the green. The red, the black, and the green was established to serve us ad infinitum. Forever and ever and ever. The red, the black, and the green was a symbol of nationhood. A nation is a people organized as a sovereign entity. A people organized as a sovereign entity. And when you're organized as a sovereign entity, you are commanding autonomy in every aspect of life. Politically, economically, socially, culturally, spiritually, scientifically, technologically, psychologically, on every level, you are sovereign. Right or wrong, brothers and sisters? Right. When you are sovereign, you answer to no one. You call no man master. No one can come and topple your government and your president when you're sovereign. When that happens, you're not sovereign. When your government and your president have to answer, have to think about the implications of not obeying the master. You're not sovereign. Tendai. Papa Garvey says, the flag of a nation is the emblem that signifies the existence of that nation. Have your flag. It is red, black, and green. Be proud of it. For it is the emblem of your race. When other nations exhibit theirs, exhibit yours. Make songs about your nation and sing them. Write poetry about your nation and recite it. Glorify your nation in music and song. Don't sing the songs of other nations. Don't recite the poems of other races. See only yourself in everything. Make your nation the highest expression of human idealism. Then live up to it. That's where we may have fallen down. The living up to it. Yes? We had the flag. We had the Constitution. We had the officers in place. Because in addition to Papa Garvey, there were some 20 other officers that were elected on that day to head up health, industry, religion, science and technology, social welfare. We had officers elected to deal with international affairs. Yes? Tendai Mari? Bear with me a moment, brothers and sisters. Is everybody all right? Yeah. Tendai Mari? Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! Mosiah lives! Mosiah lives! He lives! Baba Tony Martin explains to us in Marcus Garvey Hero, a small bite-sized book that he has written for us to easily digest the information about the life and legacy of Papa Garvey. And he says to us, many of the marchers carried banners talking about the parade, proclaiming the ideas and opinions of Garvey. Among them, one could see the following: Africa for the Africans. Yeah. All men were created equal. Down with lynching. Yes. Toussaint Louverture was an abler soldier than Napoleon. Yeah. Dessalines was even better. And Negroes fought in Europe and can fight in Africa. Right. After the opening session, the convention moved to Liberty Hall. Yeah. Since African peoples had hardly a nation they could call their own, the UNIA now tried to act as a model of what the future African nation might be. The convention was seen as a parliament of African people. The convention was seen as a parliament of African people. That's what they called it. A parliament of African people. What did we try to establish in 2011? The National African People's Parliament. The National Parliament of African people. And that was hijacked. The spirit and the vision of Papa Garvey was at the core. It is the spirit and vision of Papa Garvey that was driving the ideas of the National African People, the interim that was intended to become the actual National African People's Parliament. What have we done with the legacy of the red, black, and green? Is the question we must leave here asking ourselves today. Are we going to go on, brothers and sisters, and we give thanks to Rastafari for the work that they have done to keep the legacy of Papa Garvey alive? Are you all, and the name of Papa Garvey alive? we are in very, very challenging times. Very, very challenging times. This phase of COVID-19 pandemonium, more of a pandemonium than a pandemic as far as I'm concerned. Some call it a plandemic. But we have to understand, brothers and sisters, that there are forces that control the world in which we live that are not accountable to the citizens of the world. The citizens of the world who vote for governments who are controlled and instructed by the power elites that run this world. And so when we see a society moving to a position where the government has instructed the citizenry to stay at home, to lock themselves in their houses, we have to ask some serious questions. When we hear dissenting voices from the establishment that is questioning the scientific authenticity of what the government is doing, when we see the contradictions and the anomalies, now they're telling you you must wear a mask to go into public places, to go on public transport, to go in shops. Now they're telling you must wear a mask. A mask obstructs your breathing. You wear a mask, you are less able to take in oxygen and more likely to trap carbon dioxide in the mask and recycle that carbon dioxide in your bloodstream. Are you with me, brothers and sisters? Right? We may think this is just the government, but there are power elites that control the world. That's right. We need to study and we need to understand. That's right. These power elites instruct governments. When your government is talking about tracking and tracing, we should be nervous about that. That's surveillance. Yeah. Right. Tracking and tracing is surveillance. That's right. And we are accepting these things. These are very, very serious times. Time doesn't allow for me to go into that too much, brothers and sisters, because I need to round up. I just need to say that if we brothers and sisters, had fulfilled, if we were still, brothers and sisters, working under the influence of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and under the influence of the vision of the red, the black, and the green, we would not be in this position today. We would be in a powerful position to deal with anything that our enslavers, our former enslavers and colonizers would want to throw at us. We've got work to do, beloved brothers and sisters. So I want to round off by just reminding us that the legacy of Papa Garvey awaits us. That he gave us the black print for our liberation, that there'll be no freedom for African people unless we revitalize and regenerate the vision, the spirit, and the works of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey and the UNIA-ACL. Beloved brothers and sisters, Papa Garvey cries to us from the grave. His voice cries out to us. Unite, organize now, or perish. Brothers and sisters, Papa Garvey made it absolutely clear to us that it is through our own independence of ideas, our own independence of work, that we are going to be a free and self-determining people again. Papa Garvey made it clear to us that any leadership that teaches us to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave us. And we are still, as we speak today, dependent upon another race. We are still dependent upon another race. You see them killing our people in America. George Floyd has shook up the world, shook up Africans around the world. But do I see evidence of us making the same mistake that we have always made? That somehow it's through moral petitioning that we are going to change the hearts. Even Martin Luther King came to the position that the nation was morally bankrupt and that we had to revolutionize the morals of the nation. Even he came to this, the position that the nation had to be destroyed in order to be reconstructed. What about us who call ourselves nationalist Pan-Africanists? How have we built on the greatest legacy that we have ever had in our history? How do we intend to revive that legacy? How do we intend to move forward with this vision? Is a question that we have to ask ourselves. And so the significance of the International Convention of the African People of the World is that we must study again that convention. There is still the need for Africans to gather around the world and to engage in the kind of serious discussions and debates and planning as to how we are going to organize ourselves nationally and internationally on every level, politically, economically, socially, culturally, spiritually, scientifically, technologically, in every sphere of life. So we can be in control of our lives from the womb to the tomb and beyond. Brothers and sisters, let us answer the call of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who says, unite, organize now or perish. Rise, you mighty African people, for you can accomplish whatever you will. Rumbitso kunamwari Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Tendai mwari. Thank you, brothers and sisters. God bless. God bless.
Tendamwari, yes, sisters and brothers, once again, a very inspiring and empowering message full of very important historical information about Papa Garvey, the UNIA, and its legacy. Brothers and sisters, there is so much for us to learn. There's so much for us to gain. Continue to stay with the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement this month while we look even further and deeper into the life and the legacy of Papa Garvey and the UNIA. And we will be having a number of community sessions that we do every year, brothers and sisters. I'm going to ask Brother Olatunji Heru if you can just come forward and just share with our gathering today some of the programs. Some of them are community online meetings as well as radio programs. So Brother Olatunji comes forward and just share the topics that we'll be covering and some of the people who will be joining us. Can we hail Brother Leader again, brothers and sisters?
Centenary. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. Give thanks, sisters and brothers, for joining us today on this platform. Sister Kai rightly said we have a month of observances honoring the life and legacy of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Continue tomorrow on Galaxy Radio, the only D-brainwatching station, galaxyafuri.com. That's Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan. Happens every Kujuguli day, every Monday evening, between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. Tomorrow we're dealing with the subject, Garveyism for the next generation. I'm going to be joined by a special guest, a young warrior, Minister Malak from the African World Federation. Coming thick and fast the following day, the Juma Day, Tuesday, the 4th of Mosiah. On this platform here, Alkebu-Lan Way on YouTube, African Paranomics and the Garvey Movement. This will be a presentation by our brother, Ifayomi Grant, sisters and brothers, the author, publisher, one of the most leading Pan-African thinkers, certainly on this side of the world, sisters and brothers. So tune in, again, 7:30 on the Juma Tuesday evening, 7:30 to 9:30 to hear Brother Ifayomi speak about that subject. Moving on, Africa Speaks again on the 10th of Mosiah. We're dealing with the subject, role of scholarship in African liberation. We're joined by our brother, Tristan Samuels, who's a doctoral student at Temple University in the US. So we know Temple University is one of the main centers of Afrocentric thought in the world. So we're going to join our brother Tristan to see what actually is the role of scholarship and liberation. I think those of you who heard the message have some idea what the role of scholarship is supposed to do, sisters and brothers. But do we all agree with that? Centenary. The following day, the 11th, sisters and brothers, we deal with the subject, feminism versus African nationalist womanhood. Feminism versus African nationalist womanhood. We're going to be treated, sisters and brothers, by a presentation from the legendary Professor Mambo Amamazama. For those who don't know, she's a professor of Africology and African American Studies at Temple University, as well as a priestess in the Vodun tradition. Vodun. But also going to be joined on that session as well by our very own Sister Kaya Mbandaka. So you're looking at twin towers of African womanhood on that evening, sisters and brothers. That's the 11th of Mosiah. 7:30 again on this very platform, our Alkebu-Lan Way. We're dealing with the following Sabbath, the war against neocolonialism. That can be delivered by our brother Abiola So from Nachan Kamit, based in France and the Congo. Very serious brother. We're organizing globally. We're going to deal with that. We're going to get an idea of what the concept of revolutionary Kamitism is, sisters and brothers. The following Sabbath, the 24th, again on Africa Speaks on the only D-brainwatching station, galaxyafuri.com, dealing with African spiritual autonomy. I'm going to be, again, going to be interacting with our sister, Professor Chenzira Kahina. So tune in for that, sisters and brothers. And the last program, so we've got down, sisters and brothers, but keep checking with your website, alkebu-lan.org/Mosiah, because we're updating the program day by day, sisters and brothers. But the final program we've got so far is Education for Liberation. That's on the 25th of Mosiah. Again, on this very platform, Alkebu-Lan Way on YouTube, Queen Thais, the queen of black homeschooling, that could be dealing with that subject of how we educate our young ones for liberation. So that's the program as it is so far, sisters and brothers. But I encourage you to go to alkebu-lan.org, Mosiah, for updates as we go, because we're still putting the program, still adding to the program as things move and develop. So encourage your sisters and brothers to start with tomorrow, Africa Speaks on Galaxy Radio, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. GMT, so cool. Dealing with Garveyism for the next generation. And really just want to say, give thanks and praise to sisters and brothers for joining us today on this official launch of the Mosiah season.
Yeah.
We're doing this, sisters and brothers, since 1998. So this would be our 23rd, I think. And also say, I just go to Alkebu-Lan.org just to see what else is going on during the Mosiah season as well. Whatever's going on that's of relevance in the African world and honoring elected Papa Garvey, I certainly encourage you to check it out. I know there's a conference happening on the 8th and the 9th as well. But look out again on Capitalism for details of that, sister and brother, because we really do need, like Brother Leader said, we've been everywhere, looked everywhere, studied everything else, and tried to engage with it as we could. And you know what? None of them have given the answers that we need. The one thing that's given us the answers we needed, we got so close to it, sisters and brothers, was Garveyism. Yeah. Now it's time to come back home to Papa Garvey. Tendai Mwari.
Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. Brothers and sisters, we can please rise. Those of you that are here, as well as those of you are in cyber world, all over the African world, just rise if you are able to. We are going to close the session with Mosiah's testimony. I'm going to call forward. I'm going to call forward the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, Brother Leader Mbandaka, to lead us in that today. Tendai Mwari. Yele.
Tendai Mwari. Just so that brothers and sisters know that normally we close out our Mosiah opening ceremony, our ceremony of thanksgiving, with what we call an illumination ritual. We would normally have a candle, a sort of candlelit visual, if you will, where each adult person would have a candle. And we would organize ourselves in a circle where we circumambulate, or we go around the shrine 3 times, whilst we chant, shine your light in the valley, shine your light in the valley over there, have a little light in I, going to make it shine, 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 shine. The significance of that ritual is that it represents in lighting the candle. Each of us who hold a lit candle, we are holding in our hands the legacy, or symbolically, of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and committing ourselves to that legacy. And when we light the candle, it represents our pledge and our commitment to illuminate that legacy, to be a shining light of that legacy in our personal lives as we go forward. For obvious reasons, we are not able to conduct that ritual, but we want to bring that ritual to mind. And what we're going to ask everyone to do is just light a candle when you go home and place it on your shrine. If you don't have a permanent shrine in your home, just build a makeshift shrine with a few ritual objects, a bowl for the libation. If you have some sculptures, African-centered sculptures and artifacts in your home, you can just put them on the shrine, a couple of pictures of ancestors, and just light a candle and let it burn for about an hour. And just repeat Garvey lives, Mosiah lives, and maybe read a text from Papa Garvey's rich legacy, just to represent that ritual, brothers and sisters. And then we would chant redemption song. Were pirates, yes, they rabbi, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. But my hand was made strong by the hands of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? Because all I ever have, redemption song. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, for none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing another song of freedom? Because all I ever have, redemption song. And as we sing that, we have the candles raised and we chant redemption song. And then we round out with the reading of the Mosiah's testimony. I'm going to ask us all to stand wherever we are presently, tuning into this broadcast. Please stand and hear the words, the prophetic words of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Mosiah's testimony. Well, I intend with your help and with God's grace to continue, for my work has only just begun, and future generations shall have in their hands a guide by which they shall know the sins of the 20th century. I do, and I know you too believe in time. Well, we shall wait 200 years if needs be to face our enemy through our posterity. When my enemies are satisfied, in life I shall come back, or in death, even to serve you as I served before. In life I shall be the same. In death I shall be a terror to the foes of Africa, to the enemies of my people. If death has power, then count on me to be the real Marcus Garvey I would like to be. If I may come in an earthquake or a plague or a pestilence, or as God would have me, then be assured that I will never desert you or make your enemies triumph over you. Would I not go to hell 1,000,000 times for you? Would I not walk the earth forever for you? Would I not lose the whole world and eternity for you? Would I not cry forever before the footstool of the Lord omnipotent for you? Would I not die 1,000,000 deaths for you? Then why be sad? Cheer up and be assured that if it takes 1,000,000 years, the sins of our enemies shall visit the 1,000,000th generation of those who hinder and oppress us. If I die at Atlanta, then my work will only just then begin. For I shall live in the physical or the spiritual to see the day of Africa's glory. When I am dead, wrap the mantle of the red, the black, and the green around me. For in the new life I shall rise up with God's grace and blessings to meet the millions at the height of the triumph with the colors that you will know. Look for me in a whirlwind or a storm. Be all around. For with God's grace I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women. Those who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa to save you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life. Wake up, Ethiopia. Wake up, Africa. Wake up, Ethiopia. Wake up, Africa. Hello! Hello! Garvey lives! Mosiah lives!
Just to close off.
Every man, woman, and child, every nation.
Tenamwari, Well, that sounds like a nice tune to finish off with. But before we do that, we'll just, before we do that, brothers and sisters, I'm asking us to place our left hands on our heart and raise our right hand for our closing words. Tendai Mware. Let us remind ourselves to take from here all that we've learned, all that we've gained in knowledge, information, and inspiration out into the streets, into our personal lives, amongst our families and friends, our places of work, our place of study, wherever we are. Let us remind ourselves to be a shining light unto Africans everywhere. Yes. Let Africans everywhere know that Mwari, Olodumare, Unkulunkulu, Nodume, Sodume, Ama, Eshe, Nobokuane, the African God, reigns supreme. Let Africans everywhere know that it is a joy to be an African. Let Africans everywhere know that liberation is indeed at hand. Tendamware, Tendamware, Tendamware. Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! Yes, brothers and sisters, let's hear some buju with up you mighty race.
Every man, woman, and child, every nation.